Yes, it is. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, hello. My name is Daniela, and on the other side, you have seen my co-partner, Alex. We work for Cologne Intelligence. Cologne Intelligence is an expert in IT services and IT consulting. As you can hear from my accent, I'm from Germany. I've been working as a user experience designer and researcher for years. I have a lot of superpowers, but my real superpower is figuring out problems. Well, that doesn't sound interesting at first, but for me it is. And now I will hand over to Alex. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Alex. I also work in the Cologne Intelligence as an Android developer. And as we are a consulting agency, we work in different projects for our clients, mainly in B2B context, but sometimes also as a part of our clients' teams in B2C context as well. So that's it for the introduction, and what is actually our motivation to make this talk? So we've noticed that sometimes teamwork between designers and developers is not perfect. From my experience, for example, and also it's from the experience of Daniela, that sometimes you have meetings that feel like fights. You sit there, you discuss over hours over and over again about something, and then you just have the feeling that the person sitting in front of you is trying to win something, but it's not there to win. It's it's just meetings that leave more questions than the answers at the end. And designers don't understand developers, developers don't understand designers, and no one is happy. So that is the situation we have experienced in some projects, but in one of our common projects, we've experienced a whole different situation where the collaboration worked very well. So we started asking ourselves, what is the difference between those situations, and what was the key to have a good collaboration? And beginning to research this area, we started by trying to understand how the situation goes to this bad experience. And you can notice it by hearing some stuff from developers or designers. And on the next slide, you will see some phrases you might have heard from your colleagues. I definitely have heard them from my Android developer colleagues. And shame on me, I might have said some of this also. So if you hear something like, I don't like to move pixels around, I need to make it work, I do not care if it looks good. The users didn't complain about design, so it can be that bad. Why should I care whether the green color needs to be 50% transparent or not? The designer needs to tell me exactly how it should look like so that I can implement it. So if you hear something like this, probably the situation is not very good. And it indicates that developers do not understand the role of the designers, and they have no empathy for them. So I will give to Daniela for the further slides.
Yes. I have also some quotes you may have heard before. Like, developers are not creative, they are only supposed to do the implementation. Well, creativity, that what designers aim for themselves. Only they are creative, only they have ideas, only they have a sense of style, and only they have the right lifestyle. I will leave that without a comment. Designers should know about biases by profession. That doesn't mean that they don't have biases themselves. That's like an invisible boundary or like a rivalry between design and development. It's like we and they, and both sides cultivate their biases. I mean, teamwork isn't easy like that. And another point is the mindset of designers. I mean, what happens in the design team stays in the design teams. This had something to do with the way of working. You know, many designers are introverts. They like to work everything out for themselves first. They don't want to give any sneak previews on their work, and they just want to work with designers because they understand each other. or have some kind of connection towards each other. That doesn't sound like teamwork either. And now let's have a deeper look into the pain points of teamwork from a developer's perspective. So.
Yes. So whenever you find yourself in a situation where the teamwork doesn't work very well, you will have some struggles. And for me as a developer, the struggles were designs were not always suitable for the specific platform. Like, for example, in one of the projects, we had become the design of the feature with the date picker. And this date picker was the iOS one, which was actually in the design that we had to implement. And as I asked the PO if we could change it to the standard Android date picker, the answer was no. And in this team setup, I didn't have the opportunity to talk to designers directly. So I had to rebuild the iOS date picker on the Android platform, which actually cost a lot of time and a lot of money. But the reason was that the management was thinking that if the designers would have to create a new design for the Android specifically, it would cost more money. But in the end, it costed money anyway. The other issue with not suitable designs is, for example, the diversity of Android screens. We had in one of the projects a lot of bugs or like problems with a particular device with a specific screen size and the pixel density. And it was over and over again. And then only when we had the chance to speak to the designers and to tell them about this problem, we could get rid of this problem once for all, because then they realized that we have a problem there, and they could make adjustments to the designs. The other problem is sometimes that not all use cases are considered in the design, especially the error cases or edge cases. It's very often the case when you don't have the team that communicates good with each other. And last but not least, and probably it is connected to both other problems, is that the designs are not allowed or just can be adjusted. And in one of the projects, the team setup was very strange organized, because the clients, they have hired the design team from one agency in Berlin and then the development team from the other agency in Cologne. And they divided the process of product development in two different stages. So first of all, designers came and created design for the features, and then the developers came and implemented those features. So by the time we were on the project, the developers has already left the project, so we couldn't actually question anything about the designs, because the designers were not there, and there was no budget to hire them again to make the adjustments.
Yes, and I have some aspects from a designer's perspective. Yes, designer starts working on the application too early. The reason is always that the staffing is still in the planning stage. It's easier to book one designer instead of 20 developers. And usually the designer starts working with a catalog of like I call it open requirements. They are working on user stories, interfaces, or even prototypes. But to be honest, these deliverables or concepts should be taken with caution. The user tests are only superficial. The research is not completed, for example. In an ideal state, these concepts should be reviewed and updated after the real start of the project. You know, where the full team is completed, where the team is completed. But from my experience, these concepts always find their way into the development department. I don't know why. These concepts are like zombies. Yeah, they pop up again and again, and I don't know why. And then the real problem starts to begin. This upfront conception cannot deal with the current problems of the target group. You know, yesterday's problems no longer need to exist today. And not only problems are changing, the user behavior is changing as well. Every day, our user learns something new and engage with new applications. You might have heard about the Jacob's law. It's a quite common UX law. It says users spend most of their time on other sites. This means that users prefer your site to work the same way as all the other sites they already know. Well, that's true. And I have another aspect about timing. Designers join the team when the application is already live or like in a pilot phase. This is also not a good starting position because processes are already established in the team. The user are familiar with the application, the developers are familiar with the application, the patterns are set and well known. And then the designer wants to make some optimizations, but they have to be very careful. I have a special guiding principle. For me, it's like evolution instead of revolution, just making really small steps. But it's not an easy task to tell the team that fundamental changes need to be made. Normally, like I said, if I have to adjust the concept, it's not just changing some colors on the interface. Normally, the real structure has to be changed. And for everybody, this is disappointing because a lot of work is involved in the implementation, a lot of effort, and of course, a lot of love. And then the designer is a party pooper. Yes, and nobody likes party pooper. And so, yes, everybody is not happy. And another pain point is a non-functional build, measure, learn loop. In other words, the feature factory. One feature after the another is developed. The features are not analyzed. The feedback is not collected. Or not, yeah, even if it's collected, it's not analyzed. The feature will not be improved further. When the story is done, the story is done. And nobody cares about the user and nobody cares about the quality. To avoid this, we have thought about an ideal teamwork. On this screen, you see what we just described. All the departments feel like small planets in space and they have no connection to each other. It's like an own ecosystem. Maybe they have their own language, they have their own rules, they have their own meetings, yes, but there's no exchange. But we think of we have a different idea of teamwork. This is our vision. We think about a lively exchange within the team. Yes, just to take some few advantages. Decisions can be made faster. We fail faster, of course, and fail is always good. And we learn faster. And each team member gets better every day and every day. But what does it mean in concrete terms? First, you can start with selecting the right tools. Alex and I, we have had very good experience with Figma and Figma Jam. It's really a nice collaborative tool and it's really fun to work with. I'm really happy when a team of developers, for example, works directly with me in the document, in the file. Yes, we are really working as a team. And I like the discussions in the refinement meetings. Yes, we can really rework and rearrange all the layouts, make some new connections, get new ideas. And I also appreciate the comment feature. You know, the comments are pinned directly in the layout. And so this helps everybody to get along. You really to get a connection. Okay, this have to be changed and I don't have to look what was meant, where is it? I don't know, I forget it. I really have a straight connection. And all files are accessible to all team members 24/7. So everybody can look at the layouts and the flows and can make up their mind. That are just a few benefits. There are a lot of more, but however, it's also important that all the tickets in Jira are always fully prepared. All team members needed the same level of information. Well, that's also, yes, like a no-brainer. At teamwork, it's always about making decisions. But what are the objectives of the decisions? It can be that simple. Yes, user comes first. That could be our goal, or like our main goal. But the expectations of the users are often a black box for the team, even for the UX team or the research team. But there's one thing we can be sure of. The user knows a specific system component and their behavior, and these expectations should be met. Like he has a device and he's used to use apps, and so he knows the components. We should gather all our knowledge and expectation in teamwork to keep the system-specific standards up to date. And like accessibility is also a major issue. It's really easy to build a happy flow, but to be honest, things don't always go so smoothly. Users make mistakes. Yes, they are not focused. They do not read. They do not understand. And so we have to think about a guidance of edge and error cases in advance. So, and now let's have a deep dive into how we can achieve our vision of teamwork.
Yes, thanks. So we have shared our vision of how the good team work should look like, but how can we achieve it? So first of all, and this is in my opinion the most important thing, is understanding that designers and developers have the same goals. We both want to improve the product. We all want to deliver value to the client. So the designers create their designs not because they like fancy sketches, and the developers implement things not because they only love to code. We all want to deliver the value to the client. And this is very important. So once we understand that, we can actually communicate with each other much better, and we have the empathy for each other, and we understand the role better. Then the very important thing is development and design work parallel, recursive, and together, which means no one has to win the meeting. We all come to the meeting with our expertise, and we bring our expertise to the meeting to create the better experience for our users. So we, from developer perspective, bring our knowledges of the platform and the technical side of the app, and the designers bring the researchers and the vision of the features that should be implemented and the problems that they want to solve for the users. And then we can combine those expertises to get the better results. So regular feedback in both directions also very important thing to do. So because in any, like by for example by refinements, we can as developers give the feedback to the designs. If it is technically possible to implement something like this, if there are some technical struggles or some obstacles to implement this particular flow, or maybe we can make some small adjustment that would save us the money, the implementation time, or data. And the vice versa, the feedback on the implemented features is also very important. So as soon as I have something visual, I go with it to designers and ask if something I'm developing actually goes in the right direction, if it actually solves the problem that was initially the problem that should have been solved for the user. So yes, and very important thing, celebrate each success, because we work together, the team. So once we solve some problem of our clients, we have like, it's the common success. It's also success of the designers and the developers, and it's very good for the motivation for the whole team. So then what can I do as a developer? First of all, and very important, think along. So we developers are not there just to implement things that the designers create. We also can think along. We can share our knowledge of the platform-specific behavior to the designers. Like, for example, how Android handles shadows, what are the possibilities for the date picker, what is the Android lifecycle, what happens to the app if it goes to the background, what happens if the device doesn't have enough memory at the time. So this is something that designers don't need to know per se, but that's the knowledge that we can share with them, so that we'll give them the more information to create better experience for the users of our apps. In particular, also error cases, edge cases. What happens if the data that should be transferred from the server is huge, or what happens if the app is used in the subway? So things like this. And yes, this is a very helpful thing. So what else? The second thing, which is also very important, communicate with designers. Ask for a feedback of design implementation. Ask proactive, and as soon as you have something, give feedback to the designs. And very important, try to understand the problem. As I already said, designers, they do not create features just because they like fancy sketches. They want to solve the problem of the users, of the clients. So try to understand the problem. It will help you to find the solution, because once you understand it, you can make suggestions. Maybe something technical can be done to solve this problem. And yeah, maybe there are some obstacles or struggles that should have been mentioned. So this is very important. Communicate with designers. Then the next one, also very important thing, is use visual help. This is also very helpful, because once you go to discussion with designers, use things like flowcharts, sequence diagrams, and stuff like this, because it helps to visualize our technical point of view, so that developers understand us better. And it's very helpful tool. So use it by any time you are in the discussions with with designers. So the next slide is.
Yes, it's me.
Yes.
Yes, it's what can I do as a designer? Yes, first of all, listen carefully. It's important that you should try to understand and not to concentrate on being understood. Yes, it's like really getting into the conversation. Alex, he's very good in describing problems, and he always leaves room or space to ask questions during the conversations. Yes, and like he said, it really helps me to understand his problem. You know, I have a lot of problems, like I know all these user problems, but his specific problems are connected to the user problem, or like they help to find the best solution. And sometimes the description of a problem includes negative feedback. Yes, you have to think about the feedback and evaluate it. I'm used to feedback, normally really harsh feedback. You know, users are not very friendly, and I really appreciate it. It's the only way to make my design or make the application better. Then the next is be a team player, not a design diva. I know that designers are sometimes a bit special and they like to put on a show, like really divas, yes. But to be honest, that doesn't help with collaboration. It really comes down to the ability of compromise. No one should wait a long time for design deliverables just because the designer needs to make some special coffee. And really, everybody is allowed to have good ideas. It's not just, it's not a special right for designers because they have the title design. And there's just some simple rule. Yes, if you want to work fast, you work alone. If you want to work well, you work in a team. Yeah, I'm sure you have the same experience. And I always enjoy working with really good sparring partner. Like Alex described it, is he's my sparring partner on the technical side. And yes, I really get a lot of ideas, and it's very, yes, it's very joyful to talk and really inspiring. And another point is be a value for the team. For example, designers often don't share their research result with the team. I mean, that's really, really difficult because the team members don't have the opportunity to exchange informations, to know, to get a full overview about all the informations and datas. Sometimes ideas emerge quickly, and sometimes ideas need to mature, but you have to have all the informations, yes, to get ideas and to think about solutions. And it's always good to change ideas, to exchange ideas and discuss solutions. And another important aspect is always bring a deliverable. Yes, for me, the deliverable is a basis for discussion. It doesn't matter if the deliverable is not 120% worked out, just the idea needs to be reproduced. It can be a sketch, it can be a sentence, yes, but you have to have something like a build, like an image, yes. And I also have very good experience with live sessions. This means that the deliverable is created together during a session. I have to admit that I had to learn to work in live sessions because I was always nervous. And when somebody watched me working, like I clicked something wrong, copy paste was not working, and everything looks so messy. And yeah, I really had to learn this. But I was also annoyed about all these misunderstanding and loose thoughts. I wanted to have an image or like a sketch, like a wireframe at the end, so that the meeting is really valuable. And my experience are really, really positive. It's not just about saving time. Normally as a designer, I work for 2 hours and then everything is wrong because some information was missing. The live session can just take half an hour and we are finished. We have all a common understanding. And also these sessions, they are really fun. The tools, they are easy to use. Yeah, it's really nice. And the last advice is think about the product. Alex and I, we worked together on an application for a well-known German mobility and transportation company. The company with the trains. And German companies, they are known for the fact that UX writing is always very formal. In Germany, we call it Siezen und Duzen. Siezen, it's like it's a language or a grammar for superiors, and Duzen is a language for friends and family. And Alex, he implemented a small feature where users could upload a personal profile picture. Basically, it's not a big deal, but something like that didn't exist in the previous communication between the company and their employees. And it was really a game changer because this was a starting point to adapt the UX writing in the application. The formal communication was changed into a casual and a friendly one. And this impact was really immense. It was not just on our applications. Yeah, it was at the end. It was much bigger, and but this small feature, the small idea, really had a real impact on all applications. So sometimes everyone has to change the perspective to see more. So We have looked at the developers and at the designer side, but what can both improve together? Yes, we can define a pattern library and a design system. This is really the core or the basic of everything. Yes, everyone can work with the design system and the pattern library, and everybody knows the pattern. I mean, the rules can be quite simple. You can build a small house, or like a small house or a small car with some few Lego bricks. But you can have a complex system even with the same bricks, and maybe you can build a rocket if you want to. It's really up to the team. You just have to commit on working with the components and with the pattern. And so it's quite easy. And it's not just that designers have to it's not that designers only can make layouts. I mean, it's like a puzzle. Yes, you have all these components and you can build and connect it, and so you have the same solution as a designer will have. So, and it's always important to show the benefits of teamwork. Like we said before, it really saves time. Yes, it really gives the spirit and it really gives energy into the team. Yes, it really saves money, especially when we use platform-specific components. And the team works more effective, and the decisions are made quickly. But the team must demand time for exchange and communication. Cross-functional teamwork must become a team culture and not just we do it somehow and maybe we forget about it. And now we will have our takeaways. Please, Alex.
Yes, thanks. So the takeaways. The first, and in my opinion, the most important one, if you take one thing from our talk, let it be this thing. Developers and designers have the same goals. So this is, in my opinion, the most important thing, because it helps to build empathy and it helps to understand each other's roles better, and it helps by communication, collaboration, and makes the team spirit much better. Design system that follows the recommendation of material design. For example, like for us, it worked out very well because Daniela had already experience with material design. She knew it, I knew it. So if you commit on something like this, you directly have the common language that helps you to understand each other much better and much quicker come to the decisions and create new features much faster and easier. Then also important thing, regular discussions of the design framework in the team refinement meetings. So together we can decide fast, and also in this refinements you have the space to discuss, and you have space to place questions. The designers have time to adapt, and yeah, it's great. So use it. So because in some projects we've experienced something like this, that the designers weren't invited to the refinement. So the product owner came with feature designs and showed it to developers. Then developers placed their questions and thoughts and maybe struggles, technical obstacles that might appear during the implementation. Then the product owner had to go to designers, discuss it with them, got input from the designers, came back to the developers in the next refinement, so like about a week later. And then the developers who already had forgot everything about this feature had to work into this feature again, and then understand what the designers gave as an input to their previous pain points, and then answer to this inputs, and then product owner would go to designers again. So it was like the endless chain of questions and answers. So invite designers and developers to the refinement. Together we can decide fast. Then also very important point in case of questions and uncertainties, communicate in all channels which are suitable for your team, messages, calls, work sessions, whatsoever, like Figma, comments directly to the screens or flows. If your designers appreciate this, just use it. And yeah, so sometimes the quick call can save like about 2 days messaging on emails or even Teams, Slack, whatsoever. Then also very important point in my opinion, during the development, regular feedback from designers. So as soon as I have something that can be compared to the designs, I show it to the designers. Of course, if they have time for this, but like give them the opportunity to take a look on what is going on as soon as possible, so they can decide if it's going to the right direction. Sometimes it's also like the design was created to solve specific problem of the user, and it looked like it would solve this problem, but as soon as you start implementing it, it's clear that it goes the wrong way. It won't solve the problem that the user have in the app. So involve designers as soon as fast into your implementation and get the feedback from them. And then the last but not the least, nobody should defend their work. So if the designer comes with the feedback that the feature that I have implemented is not corresponding to what designer was expecting, that, and in this case, I don't have to say, but I have implemented it directly pixel to pixel. No, I just say, okay, then how could we improve it? And the same goes in the other direction. If developers say something in refinement, for example, designers, like usually, like in my experience, the good designers are always open for questions, improvements, and so on. So those are our takeaways, and thank you very much for the for your attention. And it's time for questions and answers.
Yeah, thanks, Alex and Daniela. It was a really insightful talk. I would like to give some time for questions. I already see one, but this is the time when you can post your questions in the chat section. In the meantime, I actually have a question, so if you don't mind. So I think it's quite common, at least in my experience, that platform-specific behaviors and limitations come up during development. How do you make sure to share these limitations clearly with the designers? And for as a designer, how do you understand or try to understand these limitations?
Well, I can start like from the developer's perspective. Like we just try to communicate it as clear as possible. And in this case, actually, the visuals help. Like, for example, sequence diagrams or flow diagrams and something like this. It helps a lot because like this you can show it, and especially things like life cycle limitations or some Android specific thing. It's actually, well, I would say if you work in the same team for about half a year or something like this, and you start to trying to clarify these problems, the designers would understand that eventually, like after a certain amount of time, definitely. So it's not like it's rocket science. The designers understand that.
Yes, and we have a central document, like the design system, where we document all these limitations, so that we don't forget about this. And it's just on one specific file. You just have to, there sometimes we have a lot of files, but it's just one central file where everything is documented. And yes, and very yes, it's very helpful.
Nice, thank you. So I will show you the question from the chat section at this point. So Simon Top asks whether so a problem they usually have, according to him, is the design sizes in Figma work well for iOS, but for Android, specifically more small screens or tablets, they don't work as well. I think you touched on it in your talk, but do you have any further recommendation on that?
Well,
it really has to be. in the design system, right? It really has to be in the design system. You know, you have the specific components on iOS, on Android, and maybe the light and the dark mode, and everything has to be defined in this document.
Yes, and also here it's the problem with really Android screen diversity. Well, I've already mentioned this example from my previous one of my previous projects. We had actually the problem with a very small screen, and then in one of the meetings I asked the designer if the feature he is presenting also considered for smaller screens, and the answer was, yeah, we've tried it out on the iPhone SE. And we were like, okay, but it's not the smallest screen we have on Android. But once we shared this information, and that was actually the time when the team was a little bit transforming. So before that point, we didn't have a lot of chances to speak to designers. And after that, it was the time when we could communicate to them. And after we shared like the typical small screens, which caused our problems, then they could actually adjust the designs to consider also these small screens. So we just actually took the screen specifications and send it to designers.
Yes, normally we build all these components like responsive. But like Alex said, it's really like an edge case, and you have to think about this.
Yeah, communication is key. I can just join to that. And I don't see any other questions, so I will give a little bit of time still, see if anyone has another question, because I had actually a good idea. I would like to ask you, staying with communication. What if not everything goes according to plan? I think it happens from time to time, you know, that development work or the implementation drags on. And, you know, it's easy, maybe it's easy for developers to think that the problem is that designers wanted to change so many things and that caused the delays. On the other hand, the designer may think that the development lingered on too much and that causes the problem. And now we maybe don't have the time to improve or really nail down the design. So how would you handle those kind of situations if they arise?
Well, in my experience, what really helps actually, it's purely, one of the things that might help is purely technical, and it's the good architecture. Like, for example, in one of the projects, we had a very good architecture that allowed us to change the whole design in the whole app in time of 2 weeks. So we had really a lot of elements that we have used and only on the UI layer. So we really completely changed the whole design of the whole app in one sprint. So the good architecture might help in this case, for example. But you have to think of it like in advance. When you already have the problem, you just need to communicate it clearly to the management and the product owner, in my opinion, and then try to damage the try to handle the damages.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's another question now popped up from Simon as well. The problem I usually have is that I end up using the margin sizes of the components by eye, because using Figma sizes doesn't match up when we use DP. Still about the DP problem. I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but you just need to clarify that there is this problem. It's hard to say because we don't know the situation. Maybe it's actually the situation when the developers cannot talk to the designers or like have no direct communication channels. In this case, try to communicate this to the product owner, for example. But unless someone knows that there is this problem, it cannot be solved.
Yes.
Okay. I guess that's it. So, Daniela, Alex, I would like to thank you again. And I really especially want to highlight what was great that you actually talked about real-world takeaways and concrete examples, but also spend time to show the, design, the idea behind it, or the concept behind it. So it was a great talk. Thank you again. And yeah, see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.